Okay, so let's just introduce ourselves because we have a few new people on the call today. Just real quick, your name and what institution you represent. So my name's Steve Dicus. I'm kind of the facilitator of this call. My institution is STRS. Who's next?
I'm Pete Delosa. I'm at Golden Sierra High School.
I'm Mila Zatelli. I'm the CTE Transitions Coordinator at Sacramento City College.
Excellent.
I'm Ian Duncan. I'm at Kinney High School in Rancho Cordova.
And I'm Ken Gracie from Parallax in Rockland.
I'm Neil Richmond at Sac City College, teaching CNC machining.
Excellent.
John Zay, Sacramento City College, MET program.
And I'm Randy Schuster at American River College in Design Tech.
Charles Van Riper, I teach at high school, welding and construction technology.
Hi, Robert. I think that's Robert. No, it's not Robert. Hi.
Gabriel, how are you? This is Randy.
I am good. Hi, Randy. How are you? I can't see you, but I'm good. How are you?
Okay, let's keep going with the introductions. Gabriel, introduce yourself.
Oh.
I don't know who. I think that was a side conversation. I had to mute that.
All right.
Okay. Hi, Gabriel Meehan, Sacramento City College. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being here. Well, Jeff Briggs, the Regional Director for Advanced Manufacturing for the North Region Community Colleges.
Question, please. Was that Randy? Who was that from? What's ARC Welding Department?
Actually, Randy Schuster with Design Tech and Design Hub.
Okay.
Cool. And I think Chelsea didn't get a chance to introduce herself. She kept trying.
I'm Chelsea with Tahoe Truckee Unified School District.
Perfect.
Thank you for joining. And then Karen and Alan are coming in. Alan, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure, Alan Bragan, Statewide Director for Advanced Manufacturing.
Nice.
Welcome, Alan.
And Karen's still connecting to audio. Dijin, it sounds like she's just logged in.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Dee. Here with.
Hi,
Dee,
Jeff.
Introduce yourself, please, for the masses.
Okay, yeah, my name is Dee, and I'm an account manager for Autodesk Education Experiences team. My job is to support a few selected accounts and schools in California and in Portland. And then California Community Colleges is one of my accounts. Nice. And then I've been working with Jeff and Steve to see how we can support the Sacramento region.
Thank you for joining.
Glad you're here, Dee. Fred, you want to introduce yourself real fast?
Hi, I'm Fred Larson. Let me turn my mic on, make sure it's on. Oh, good, it is.
I can hear you.
I'm the construction technology teacher at San Juan High School in Citrus Heights, California.
Todd, what about yourself?
Glad to be here.
Were you asking me, Todd Wold?
Yeah.
How are you guys doing? I'm Todd Wold. I'm the manager of CTE for Tahoe Truckee Unified School District, and one of my colleagues, Chelsea Walterscheid, is here as well.
Nice.
Excellent. We're glad you're here.
Thanks for the invite from Jeff yesterday.
Yeah. So I think we got to introduce Matt. I'm not sure you introduce yourself, but we know who you are. Hey, so today's agenda is pretty packed today. We've got Randy Schuster who's going to start it off from American River College. He's got several things he wants to show us. So Randy, take it away.
Okay, that sounds cool. If I can share my screen.
Go for it.
There we go. And let me find the right part. Here we go. Okay, so.
Share your screen.
All right. Are you guys, there we go. So what I wanted to do is go over a couple of different, we were talking last week about some of the technologies that you can have, and We looked at some that were open source and free. And so we've got some YouTube to look at. I've got some Animoto to look at. Animoto is not free, but it's kind of a cool little site. I can't see actually what you guys are seeing right now, but one of the difficulties with this. And so I thought I'd just show you Animoto really quick. It's a nice little tool, and it's let me see if it lets me get in here. So it's got tons of little templates that you can use, including blank templates. And basically, if you put a template assignment instructions as an example and choose the template, it lets you place content. You can place text, you can place video, you can place images, you can place YouTube links, and then you can also go and adjust what you write in each one. And it puts it together in a little video for you with music or closed captioning or whatever you want. And so it's a really nice tool to bring a little bit more interest to some of the things that we've got going on. So let me go back to mine. No, don't leave the site. How do I get back to my media? My videos, here we go. Let's see if it gets me back to my videos. And so this is an example of one that I've done. So that was part of a project where the students had to pitch their concept for a gamified learning center for the Aerospace Museum, and then the Aerospace Museum was going to pick which one they wanted to use. So once that one was picked, then of course they got to do their design work, but this was some of the upfront work that got done. So that's a nice little tool. I've got another one here that's got some design and engineering that I'm going to go through with you in a little bit that I made. And if you're interested, I can give you the share to it. One of the other things is closed captioning. We talked about that last week. And, you know, on YouTube, one of the things with Zoom is they ask you, oh, the closed captioning and the recording is bogging them down. If you do a record on any number of platforms, then you're able to put it on YouTube and you can pull the transcript off of it. So it usually takes a day for the transcript to come up. But if you don't want to work off of YouTube, I understand some schools, it's not secure enough for them to have their kids go onto YouTube. We don't seem to mind it as much. But you can pull the transcript and put that into your Canvas page or Blackboard or D2L or whatever you want. And you can put that in as your alt text and your screen reader, because it just comes up. And that's just a little button down here that says open the transcript. So if they're speaking on it, you're gonna get that stuff to come off of it. So that's another way that you can go about working with some items. I want to show you how I cast. I don't screencast, I screen record. So now let me see if I can get to how do I get back to the Zoom? I think I have to push the stop share up here. There we go. I want to share a different screen for you. And I want to share my OBS. So this is OBS. This is an this is an open broadcaster software program, very simple to use. What you can see on here is that you can set up different scenes. I'm not sure if you can see that clicking there. And I can pull different displays. So I'm doing my display number 2 as a capture, but you can see all the different things that you can pull to capture for different screens. And you can even pull different audio inputs. So right now I'm working off of my, my Blue Snowball audio input. And what I really like about it is if I go to my screen captioning, right now I'm getting live captioning off of a free website called webcaptioner.com. And so you just throw that up on the bottom and you don't have to wait for anything. It's coming up right as you go. And it does okay. There are times when it puts funny things up and your class will have a good time. But it's not too bad. It works okay, as you can see. So I thought I'd give you a quick little demo of this. Normally I'll go ahead and do a start recording on it so that you guys can capture it and we can do it. And so we're gonna get 2 recordings. Jeff, you're gonna record me recording myself for you guys, and it's kind of weird, but that should be okay. So I'm just gonna go onto my OBS and start a recording.
I don't know how to use this.
And so now we're recording, so I can go through this PowerPoint. And I thought real quickly, since most of you are in the education field and you're trying to train your students to be either engineers or designers, and most people don't know the difference. Now, I'm going to tell a funny little story. When Gabriel interviewed me for my job at Los Rios, and I remember this very clearly. I was given a teaching assignment that said, teach about bearings. And being a mechanical engineer, I taught about deep roller cup bearings and thrust bearings and all these kind of, lubrications of bearings, and everybody's eyes were rolling backwards because they wanted north 45 degrees east bearings. And somehow they got past the fact that I had no clue what survey bearings were, and they still hired me. So Gabriel, thank you for all of your, looking over my flaws as we were doing that. So I've always been a designer. I've got a mechanical engineering degree. It was wonderful, but I've always been a designer. I've worked in R&D, I've worked in manufacturing, I've been a manager, and I know the difference between design and engineering, and most students don't. So I thought I'd give a little bit of a rundown on it, of a comparison. What are they? What's their approach? How do they focus on things? How do you go through this stuff? Because I'll tell you, not everybody who says they want to be an engineer should be an engineer, and not everybody who wants to be a designer should be a designer. Sometimes they should be one or the other. So what are they at? How could you describe designers and engineering? Cutting edge, problem solving, analyzing, calculating, planning, creating documents. They all do the same thing. Designers and engineers work on exactly the same thing, on exactly the same projects. They're both really cool. So what's the difference? The difference is in their approach. Okay, designers rely on experience and technology, and engineers rely on math and science. And so I learned calculus and I learned vector analysis, and differential equations are dripping out my ears, and I got through it. But in the end, I'm a technology and experience person, and that's how I do my job. And so I've been a designer my whole life. All right, so there's the difference in how they go about it. What do they focus on? Designers focus on the how. And I'll tell you, some of the most incredibly smart design leaders of all projects, they're super good at the how. And that's what they're there for. How do you make the best design? How do you make the best part? How? And the engineers are sitting there having donuts and going to the meetings. No. Yeah. That's the part I hated about being an engineer. They have to decide what makes the best design. what should the parts do? What makes a safe part? What more could it do? They look at what, and designers look at how. And so when you're talking with your students, you got to go, what do you like to do? Are you a how person or a what person? And in the end, the whole idea is design optimization, right? That's how you make money for your company. You have to optimize the design. Designers figure out how to do it. Engineers figure out what that design optimization is. So once you got to figure out kind of what you want to do, you got to figure out where you learn it and how you learn it. Design is based on algebra and geometry. We have the technology for everything else. Finite element analysis, ecomaterial analysis, equest energy analysis, those generative analysis. Dee, I got your message and we'll be setting that up. We have computers to do this thinking for us. And so we use those tools, and what we need as designers is really strong algebra and geometry. I've got an engineering degree. I've done the math, and I've never done an integral or a partial differential equation or anything like that for real in my working world. You also have to know general science, and then you have to get into the guts of it. You have to know the technology of 3D modeling, design, woodshop, welding, auto, art, robotics, mechanics, work experience. Okay, and of course, you're not going to learn that in high school or in college. You're going to learn the basics of it. It's in your internships and on the job that you're going to learn it. So my very first job in the shop, I did the design, and the guy got on the horn and all over the PA, whoever this Randy Schuster, and then a whole bunch of bad words, get down to the mill right now. And so I went down there, and I had called out a counterbore size that doesn't exist. And so they stuck me on a mill for a month so that I could learn my counterbore sizes. Okay, so you learn it on the job. Whether you're an engineer or whether you're a designer, you're going to learn to work on the job. So designers get the algebra and the geometry. That's what you need. Engineers need calculus, and then some more math, and physics and chemistry, and then some more math, and core engineering classes, and then some more math. So it's coming and dripping out your ears. The worst thing that you can do is go into engineering if you're not ready to love math. I thought I was ready to love math, and I made it through the math, but every time I got a bad grade in a math course, I went and took a philosophy course to get my GPA up. Okay, and that's why I got a good enough GPA to become a professor at American River College. It's because I have philosophy courses. So once you've gone through all the math, then you get some specialized engineering classes, but it's the work experience on the job that gets it. So I would hopefully you're getting the idea that it's work experience, work experience, work experience. Okay, once we've got that, what are the jobs? So I'm an engineer, and I was valued as an engineer because I did learn a way to think. Okay, the calculus teaches you how to think in a certain way, and it's super powerful and it's really good. And if you can talk to people who think that way, you're a good designer. Okay, so they like to hire designers that have an engineering degree like me. Engineers are often come from good designers that either go back and get the math or learn it on their own because they can talk to the technical people and they got a little bit of good experience. The jobs that you can get are essentially the same. Okay, it just depends on whether they want somebody called an engineer or whether they want somebody who's called a designer. Okay, so that's the world that we live in. So I was an engineering manager for many years at Ames and at Wemco and at Watts, and we would hire indiscriminately depending on what the background was, depending on what we needed. Okay, mostly I took designers because we had to get product out and we had to get it out the door, and they had to be right. We had great tools to work with. Okay. And just for those of you who are trying to figure out where to send your students, even though I'm a UC Davis grad, I never hired anybody from UC Davis. Our hires were all from Sac State and Cal Poly. It was really, really hard to hire somebody from UC Davis into the area that I was in, because I was a product production manufacturing person. Okay. We weren't system analysts or anything like that. So if you have students who go, no, I didn't get into UC Davis, I only got into Sac State. Good. They're going to get jobs. So you'll be good with them. Okay, so what do you need then? What do you have to do to prepare? Design requires, really, doesn't even require an associate's degree. You can start doing design right out of high school, out of some of your high school programs. I've seen Colin Denny's program for sure. I've seen a couple of your other ones. They're good programs, and you can get out and start designing right away. But a certificate or an associate's degree is good because it gives you a larger background in the tools, and I'll show you that in a minute with the Design Hub. If you want to be an engineer, you go to a 4-year university. Now, my suggestion, of course, since I'm at a community college, is you do your first 2 years at community college. So that comes from my experience when I was at UC Davis, and as a junior, we got this load of new students, and they knew more than I did. They knew how to program, they knew how to code, they knew how to use CNC, they knew all this stuff. And I go, where'd you learn that? And most of them said ARC or Sac City. I go, what a rip, that's the free place, isn't it? And they said it was free back then. Okay. As a matter of fact, UC Davis was $250 a quarter when I went there. Youch! I don't know how students do it now. Anyway, it's really a good idea to get your students in at the community college level, but it's not required. You can go straight on, but you need a 4-year degree if you want to be an engineer. Okay, so where can you get this stuff? Engineering. Sac City and American River College, we have full engineering group. Cosumnes River has an architectural group, and Folsom Lake has parts of it. And for design, we've all got our cool design, right? We've got MET at Sac City, we've got design technology, we've got architectural technology, we got the makerspace over at Folsom. So there's a lot of cool places that you can go for your program, depending on what you want to do. Now I'm going to hop over and talk about some cool stuff in American River College. Okay, we've got a place called the Design Hub. We started up in my lab, and then we jumped on the makerspace thing because they had money. But we're not a makerspace. We're a job shop. And in that job shop, we're an integrated, multidisciplinary, full stack workshop. And right now we got 4 main areas that we're working. We've got a drone program, and we get full stack drone techs coming out of it. We got gamified learning, we've got advanced manufacturing, and we got programming and embedded systems. Okay, and these are focuses, and from that we have to pull people from all of our departments. We pull graphic arts, visual arts, recording, programming, electronics, design tech, welding, auto. We have a game dev group, a horticulture group, drone ops. We have animation, VR, photo, tons more. Those are the ones that I can think of right off the bat. And we have
We've got about 2 minutes.
Okay, we have interns from all of these groups. So now I want to show you some of those internships because I've got a little 2-minute Animoto to show you. So if I can figure out how to stop the share, how do I stop that? Now I don't know how to stop it. Oh, stop share. And I'm going to share one more thing, which is another quick Animoto, which I think is right here. And I'm going to go back to my Oh, I don't know if I can find it now. I just want to show you this one really quick. It's 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Randy, is there sound on this one that you're going to play?
There is, but I don't know how to make you guys hear the sound.
So when you click on the share screen, you should, you may have to stop the share and then restart the share, but there's a button that you click that says share sound as well.
Okay, so let me.
It's a checkbox.
So share screen. I see. Share computer sound. Got it. So let me do a quick. There we go.
You may need to turn that down.
How's that?
A little better, but still loud. Better.
So these are just some of the things. Yeah, these are just all little projects that our students have done. There's 3D scanning, there's Revit, there's a rocket car, there's 3D printing. There's some work that we did for Day of the Dead, some anthropology work, some art work. Moleculese is for that we're working with Sierra College on integrated. It's actually SARS and COVID. There's programming. Just a little bit of cool things. There's our printer. There's our plasma cutter. There's some game dev. There's some more game dev that we did some other work. There's some drones. We
Randy,
built our own controllers.
Randy, are these all projects that people can browse themselves at some site somewhere on ARC's website?
This is on the Instagram site for ARC Design Hub.
Gotcha.
So there we go.
Andy, this has been really informative. I appreciate this. This is great.
And so hopefully you can see really that it's the technology that we're using to put it into a way that students can actually do this too.
Randy, go ahead and stop the music on there. And then also, can you post the Instagram link in the chat?
I will do that.
That'd be awesome.
If I can find it. So I think, so I stopped the screen share. So everything stopped for you, right?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. So I'll try to find the Instagram for that. I may have to send that to you later because I'm not sure if I can log on with it. I am able to log on.
Well, while you're looking,
you
Karen,
can send it later. Well,
can we turn this over to Karen for a minute?
Yeah,
Jeff?
we'll go to Karen and Randy, just post it whenever you have it.
Yeah, there we go.
Thank you, Randy.
So this is Dykus talking. We've been doing these for about 6 or 7 weeks now, I believe. And Karen, unbeknownst to me, was taking all the things out of the chat, all the links and what have you, and has been posting them on this website that you see on your screen right now, Education to Manufacturing. And Karen, you want to kind of show what you've done and how you've been posting these, and this would be a place where we could all go and see what's gone on in the past and find the resources.
Great. Thanks, Steve. Hi, I'm Karen Fraser Middleton, and I send out the newsletter that some of you may get that has this EDU to manufacturing on it. And then I also do the blog for the project that Jeff and Steve and I are all working on. So just to give you an idea, and I'll put the link, we can put the link in the chat so that you can get it. But like from the last couple of meetings, you've been sharing all sorts of resources. So Steve gave me his notes, and you can see that we've got listings here, and we have the links to the different resources that some of you have mentioned. So, and Steve organized it also by like student engagement, electronics, machining, drafting. There was a lot of discussion about Tinkercad and how to use that. So we've got all those links here, as well as how to access some other resources as far as the CTE Coalition, where the manufacturing companies are helping share their resources, as well as we had somebody from the Bay Area group mention that he's got his resources, so that's here. And then Butte County, their CTE Online had a lot of information too. So that's on the most recent blog post on the EDU to MFG. But I've got categories. So on the right-hand side, the blog posts are categorized. So if you click instructor resources, then you would see the blog posts that relate to that. So several of you teachers were kind enough to let me share your YouTube. And if I got more of them, if more of you have YouTube channels that you've got for your classroom and videos that you're producing for your students that you wouldn't mind sharing, we could add that to this article. The colleges, we're looking for ways to coordinate on getting their masks out, so there's an article about that. There were some questions about Autodesk, and so we've got some information there. Here's the CTE Coalition. These are some of the businesses that are sharing their resources. And so our goal is, as you give us more information, then we will list it on this, as well as listing in our newsletter about what's going on. So I will list the link in the chat. And as you have new resources and want to share them with us, either through the Shop Talk or through Steve, then we can add them to the blog post. So it's easy for you to have one place to go to find things like, oh, I'm sure somebody talked about something, but I can't remember what it was. So we hope this will be helpful for you as a reference. Is that good, Steve?
Awesome.
Thank you, Karen. I couldn't unmute my mic, sorry.
Oh.
Thank you, Asha, because
Here,
this is...
I'll stop the share.
No, this has been rich content recently. And I'm going to just share something with you real fast, something called Edpuzzle. And then we're going to turn the time over to Jeff and Ken Gracie to talk a little bit about what we had kind of brainstormed last week about doing virtual tours of some of our local manufacturers. So real fast, stay with me. I'm going to try to share my screen. And I believe it's this one here. Can you see me?
Yes.
You see the one that says Edpuzzle? I got 3 screens, so tell me which one I'm looking at.
We had it. Now
Okay,
you're
so it's
looking at
back over here
Zoom.
then. Is this it?
That's it. Edpuzzle.
Okay. All right, so this is Edpuzzle. I was on a call with Mark Martin and his group down in the Bay Area last Wednesday, and somebody mentioned this. And so when I was in the classroom, I used to have, show little video clips, this and that I'd pull off the web. But I really wished I had a way to edit them and maybe do a voiceover on it. And so that's what this is a free thing, Edpuzzle. I actually had to sign up. You have to have an education email. So I used my wife's email. Her first name is Shelley, so she does S. Dicus at her school district, so it all worked out. And so let me show you a couple things just real fast on this website. So I set it up, it's free. I go to my content. I grabbed 3 different YouTube videos here. And so as an example on this first one, machining metal, I can hit it, play it. I can assign this to my students. So I actually had a couple of my daughters, I assigned them as students just to test this to see if it really worked. And then as it goes, I can do a voiceover. So this one had this had music, no sound. So let me play it for a second. So you can voice over anywhere within the video if you wanted to. Another thing, this video was produced by another manufacturer out there or another company. You can actually cut and paste or you can actually edit parts out of the video if you want to. Sometimes the videos are too long, you need to make them shorter, or there's stuff that's really not relevant to the topic you want to do. Also, as you go through this, a little further on here, you can actually create quizzes, either open-ended type quizzes or multiple guess or multiple choice type things. And the student has to answer this. So list the common metals. They have to list them here. So let's just put copper as an example. And then you submit, and then it allows the video to continue to play. So it's kind of cool, it's pretty easy to use. It took me a while fumbling through it, but I've got it to work. I found that it works well on Chrome. I was using Firefox and the voiceover wasn't working. Let me show you one other thing with this. I'm gonna go back up to content. And so this is open to all educators. And if you go down here to popular channels, let's just go to YouTube. And then let's just say I want to search content and I search for machining. And there's a list of a whole bunch of different machining type videos that are already on here that other teachers have created. I'm not seeing the one I picked earlier. There's a guy on here that talked about how he got into machining, and it was really pretty cool that he did. No. Anyways, what questions do you have about this?
Hey, Steve, this is Pete. I got a question for you, and just that when you're setting up these videos, when you create your own and attach questions to it, can you, any video that you have a link to on YouTube, you can pull that in here and then choose where you want the questions?
Yeah. And so what happens, you're seeing my screen right here.
Mm-hmm.
And so normally the edit, I already saved this one, but the edit right here, as you click on edit, that's where you can go in, and maybe I should just do that real fast.
Mm-hmm.
So I have more of these that I can edit. Yeah, so if you hit edit, this comes up so I can cut, so I can make this shorter.
Okay.
Do the voiceover, and on the timeline, you place where you want it. And the quizzes, you could place where you want to put the questions. So like, I think I have a question here on this one. These are some of Autodesk's, and Dee got me permission to use these.
Cool.
Because I think some of these generative design videos that they have are just outstanding. And these are things that I would use in my classroom. Did that answer your question, Pete?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah. You pull them in, and so it goes back to here to my content. Just finish it. And I only have 3 that are on here. These 3 are the 3 that I've just pulled in just to experiment with this. But yeah, you could populate this with almost anything you have.
Awesome.
Other questions?
So Steve, Jeff here, how would you grade if students, let's say you have a class of 20 students and they're all answering these questions, how does that filter in? What's the control panel look like?
Well, that's the part I didn't get to. But by reading through this, it looks like it integrates with almost all learning management systems. So it talked to Google Classroom, Canvas, and several others. Blackboard, that's the one that we used to use in Roseville Joint before we transitioned to whatever they're using now.
It looks like there's a button there on the top right where it says content, gradebook, my classes.
Right. And so I didn't, again, since I'm not in the classroom, I didn't spend much time with this. In fact, here's one of my daughters, and I assigned the 3 videos. She hasn't had time to jump on. We just did this morning real fast. And so.
It's great.
Again, as I hear a lot of you teachers talk, this is not about new content. This is about review. But this would be a way to actually assess whether a student is actually engaging in what you're putting out there, and you can see how they're doing as they go. So it's reteaching some of the stuff that I probably would have taught earlier in the year. Any other questions or thoughts? Well, thanks for listening. Jeff, you want to introduce Ken and then maybe give a brief summary on what you're trying to accomplish with these virtual tours of industry?
Sure. So,
thank you.
Yeah, so basically last week what we did is on our call, some of you will remember that we asked if you would want us to set up virtual tours with local manufacturers for your classrooms. And so I reached out to Ken Gracie with Parallax, who agreed to join us today and sit in on the call and hear what we're all about. And then I wanted to give him the platform to kind of introduce himself. And if you're not already familiar with who Parallax is, he can tell you a little bit about Parallax. But then after that, I wanted to get everybody's feedback for how we might be able to pull off a group classroom virtual tour. So that's just kind of open-ended, and we'll see how that discussion goes. But for right now, I just want to hand it over to Ken. And Ken, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and Parallax for those of us who don't know. There we go.
Hey, Jeff.
There we go.
I've been using this tool so much I can't find the button anymore.
You know what? I think also I unmuted you at the same time you were unmuting yourself, so I actually muted you. I'll let you take over.
Thanks for inviting me. I know a number of people here, it turns out, so thanks, Jeff, for bringing me in. Like Todd and Chelsea and Gabe and Steve. So I actually live and work on both sides of Placer County. Today I'm in Truckee, where we have a small office. I live up here, but our manufacturing is in Rockland over by William Jessup. And I think several of you have been over there. So a little bit about myself. I've been in Parallax for 25 years. I grew up in Sacramento and Carmichael, and a very hands-on family. My dad was an engineer at Aerojet for 35 years. And, you know, whenever pipes would break in our house and I would say, call the plumber, he'd say, you're looking at him, get the tools, we got to fix this. So, you know, the big thing in our house on Saturday and Sunday was to go to Radio Shack and buy junk and then put it together and go to Graphic Hobby House and get things and make stuff. So this turned into, for us, business. Later in life, my brother and I went to American River College, and then I went to Davis. And I got so much more out of ARC than I did out of UC Davis, because at AR we had the chemistry classes and we were hands-on, we had labs, we had electronics, and at Davis we had classes with 200, 300 people and a lot of papers. But Davis calls me for the money all the time. So probably no surprise there after hearing Randy talk. Let's see. So as a business, we serve education, and we serve industry. We make microcontrollers. For example, you know, this is one. I have to find my own screen to see what you're looking at. So we make microcontrollers, robots, CNC machine things. Like here's an example. Let me just tilt this down. Ah, good. Okay, so here's a gripper we just made for one of our robots. It's a single axis, actually 2 degree of freedom closer with one servo. So we're milling this in Rockland. And I wanted a milling machine very badly when I was a kid. I wanted a manual mill. And then I finally got a Haas when I was 40 years old, and I put it in my garage. And it lasted for a whole year there until my wife had enough of it taking up the parking spots. So we do this kind of manufacturing, and then we do a lot of electronics. So we have surface mount, through-hole manufacturing, testing, you know, designing, software tools, and 22 people that do everything from administration to marketing to design, manufacturing, you know, CNC, pick and place. We have Haas machines. Probably the most impressive thing we've done, though, is make our own microcontroller, which was the first time around took us 7 years, and the second time took 14 years. And we just finished the second round of making our second chip, which was very challenging for a company. So we came out at the end of this process in the middle of the COVID-19 thing, which is a bad time to launch a product, so we're delaying it until the fall. Okay, so tour at Parallax, what could we do? Let me share my screen. I just brought up one picture that might be worth showing. So I think you're looking at my webpage now. Can you confirm, Jeff?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So a lot of robots and stuff on our homepage. You know, customers, they do all kinds of interesting stuff. Right now, one of the cool things going on is actually test fixtures that have been made for an N95 field replaceable mask, which is just fixtures. So that's a microcontroller customer. In terms of manufacturing, what we have, we're an American manufacturer. Interestingly, I spent the first 10 years of my career in the late 90s taking manufacturing over to China and building stuff there. I've spent the last 10 years bringing it all back. And now we're just about done with Chinese manufacturing. It's kind of obsoleted itself for a number of reasons from our perspective, among them cost management, whatever. So the machines that we have would be these and some of the people operating them. So things like lasers, which you're familiar with. This is a pick and place machine, CNC routers. I don't show the mills here. But normally the tours we've done, we bring students through the office. They've shown up on everything from school buses to vans. I think we probably had maybe, I don't know, 5,000 kids through the office through the years. And we start out up in the front area and talk to people that are more willing to talk, like salespeople and HR people. And then we kind of move to the back and circle through manufacturing. We'll visit CNC routing, CNC milling, and then electronic assembly, and then kitting. And I have staff that is willing to talk to students, which is really, really helpful because students really want to talk to them. You know, they don't really want to talk to the guy in charge or anything. They want to talk to people doing the job. And so it's really fun when they do that because they get to ask, you know, what do you make? And where'd you go to school? How'd you learn about this? And the answers are always pretty interesting. So if we did a tour, basically it consists of me taking an iPad. This is the way things work at present when we do them remotely. And we've moved all of our classes, by the way, for teachers to distance learning recently, and it's working really, really well. So we'll just take an iPad and with our broadband, just walk through the office and stop and then show things and then let discussion take place. And I try to plan it so that we have interesting things being made and then that our staff is available to chat about what they're doing. And it could take anywhere from, you know, 30 minutes to like an hour. And we've done them with groups of students where we had, you know, say Folsom Cordova is the last school that came by, Faith Kaplan, and they might bring 3 shifts of kids. So we'll cycle them that way. But when you're doing things virtual, we could do, you know, 100 using GoTo or using Zoom meeting tool.
So my question last week to everybody was what, you know, to the instructors mainly, imagine inviting your students to this tour of Parallax, this virtual tour. How do you guys think that would play out? What could go wrong? It's whoever wants to go first.
So Jeff, are you seeing this being a pre-recorded tour or an actual live tour?
Oh, I think it would be way better live, unless everyone disagrees. I think it's the more interactive, the better.
Yeah, I favor live too, just to break the barriers down, get them talking.
If we came up maybe with sort of a protocol in advance for the students to submit their questions, if we ended up with 80 or 100 people on a call, just to, you know, like if we gave the kids some directions, like when you think of a question, type it in the comments kind of thing or something like that, maybe would help streamline that. But having it live where the kids are able to actually, you know, ask questions as they think of them as they're, you know, experiencing this would be pretty cool, I think.
Ken, do you see this as going like with a GoPro and just kind of walking through a facility and interviewing people and watching things going on?
Yeah, pretty much. In our case, because we're a small company, the operators of the machines are the programmers too. So that lends itself to you know, a certain efficiency where you could ask questions about the software and tools and then talk to the same person who's running the machine. But yeah, I mean, sure, just totally live.
See, what if we were? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
My question what if we were?
Oh, I don't know who's supposed to go. You go ahead.
No, you go first.
All right. My question essentially is you have to assume for us is that our students may or may not have the right kind of application to be able to observe everything on there. So what would they need on their end in order to be able to see what you would be demonstrating via the iPad?
I think anything from a tablet to a phone to a Chromebook.
And it would be using which application?
Well, I mean, if we initiated it, we would use our Zoom, and then that would make us a host and just share out the link.
Okay, and then I would just add on the only concern that we would have, because it was asked in Oak Grove Unified, because of that, we'd be protected, but it would be security of identities and things like that. But I don't see Zoom as being a problem, considering that our district has totally adopted it as something very usable. So that's enough of me.
So I was going to say that, you know, that's a good point about anonymity. I'm not really sure how we do that. And I don't know if that's a concern for anybody. Maybe we should have each instructor who wants to invite their classroom just make sure that they've cleared that with their district. The other thing I would say is that what we would probably want to do is I know that on my end in my control panel, I can mute everybody and not allow anyone to unmute themselves. But we could do that for the students, and that way they are not going to be able to, you know, chat. I could see pros and cons of that. I kind of want the students to engage, but at the same time, I think the instructors would know, you know, their classes better than me.
Well, I think if you turn the chat off would be best. That way the students can't, you know, go around you to chat with someone else that they may or may not know and trying to make contact that way. So the only facilitator is whoever's running the meeting, and they control the chat. As far as muting and video, yeah, you can keep them muted.
So basically what I'm hearing is mute all the students, only can chat with host so far, right?
Yeah.
Another idea, what about if we had a waiting room that they came to first, and we can change, because you would have control of renaming them, and just use their first names, not their first and last names.
Perfect.
That's a good idea.
So you could start the meeting.
Video?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you could start with guest video off and muted. And then if you want to, you can give them instruction on how to change their name in Zoom.
That would be fine, I think.
Then you really have anonymity.
Well,
Jeff and Ken, this is Todd Wold with Tahoe Truckee. Can I add something?
Yes.
I have the luxury of having been in Ken's space, so I have an idea of what it looks like and how it's laid out and such like that. Phenomenal place to come and visit and tour. Speaking from the perspective of a former teacher for 24 years, one thing I would avoid like the plague is taking my students on a tour of a college campus or a business. We had a chance to take our students when I taught in Lompoc, and we did get to tour the Haas manufacturing plant down in Ventura, and we did get to tour UC Riverside and some other places when we did this 2-day trip. And then we ended up going down to the, I'm blanking on the name of the annual convention that was down there at the LA Convention Center.
West Tech.
West Tech, thank you, Ken. And the reason we would avoid these things like the plague is a lot of times we would get there and what was thought of by the adults as a tour was, let me walk you around, you follow me, I will yap at you for a lengthy period of time, and I will point at things. When we were on campuses, hey, look, over there, there's the English building. Hey, look, over there, there's the cafeteria. And they were bored to death. It was when we were able to get onto campuses or talk with industry ahead of time and say, let's do a hands-on project, let's do something interactive, let's get the kids engaged and involved, when they were excited. Which was challenging to do in a place like a Haas machine. But when we could see robots building robots, that was pretty cool. And then when we could get the students looking in at the code or looking in at the machine, doing the milling and zooming in on the aluminum being cut with water jets and the 5-axis milling and such, it was that close up and looking at the throwing of the shreds of the aluminum when it was milling it out and everything, and understanding the difference between subtractive and additive manufacturing and such. So I say all of that to say this. Zoom has the ability, if you get the more advanced version of it, it has the ability to do breakout rooms. I could totally see us joining in, and hey, this is Ken, this is the CEO of Parallax. We have this, and this. Ahead of time, I agreed with whoever said earlier, what if they could submit questions ahead of time so that we can get an idea of what they're looking for, but then we could break them out. And you can even have a rotated schedule, an anchor document on like a Word document where they click on the link and it takes them to another Zoom ID with somebody else hosting it. Or you schedule the breakout rooms. And so they break out, and one is in the room looking at the laser. The other group is in the room looking at the milling. Another group is in the product distribution side. Another group is talking with the salespeople. It could be that students go through all, or they choose maybe their top 2 or 3 interests of all of these different career fields. And then they get a chance to go and experience that, and then have more intimate conversations where it's more like a 1-on-6 instead of a 1-on-40. I could see something like that being very engaging to the kids. And I could see, I've met Ken's crew, and I could see a crew like that being able to handle something like that. And I'll add having a moderator who's looking at the chat function and being able to then have that person read aloud the questions that are appropriate.
All of those are
Can
very
I throw out something else?
great points. Go for it.
Yeah, briefly. So one of the things we're trying in TTUSD, and we might be doing with one of the middle school teachers this next month, they bought 150 of these little controllers, and they're going to be dropping them into the kids' lunches. Okay, so that's Heidi Verklo, Todd. So these are $17 controllers, and then we're going to bring the students online, and we'll do a programming class in Python. So this thing has a bunch of sensors on it: accelerometer, compass, some LEDs, buttons, has a headphone output ability, has a Bluetooth radio. So there's a lot you could do with it. So one thing that could be done, where I think this is all going, is sort of what Todd said is true. More adults yapping away about what they do. Boring, you get the Snoopy Linus thing going, whatever. But if they have something they could touch and they can program, it's a lot more fun. So that's an option I would throw out there. I would volunteer us, if that's of interest to any of the teachers here, to do a live class with your kids. And getting them some hardware like this. We don't make any money on these. These are a British contraption. We make like $2 each. They're not even worth shipping out the door, but we are drop shipping them to kids, and teachers around the country are finding really interesting ways to get them in front of their students right now.
So Ken, are you saying like that's a thing that I could have shipped to my kids? They could have it at home, be online with their Chromebook, follow along with like you online, how to program it and make it do something?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So for comparison, we're just finishing this next month running 300 teachers through something like that, but more complex, using robots.
Mm-hmm.
So something like this is neat because there's no circuitry building. All the stuff is built on. And then the programming language is Python.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nowhere they can go wrong, provided they have this,
right,
and they have that, and they have a Chromebook, Windows, or Mac machine, and then they have some monkey like me on the other side willing to spend time with them.
Yeah.
It's way, way better than a lot of things that could be done right now.
That's really cool.
Yeah, but we're just getting there. We're there. We're ready to go there. But I know for teachers, they've been swallowed up in this whole distance learning bit. They're getting there more slowly because of everything else in the way, like the issues with Zoom and privacy or whatever it is, or are we grading students or not?
What kind of things could they program that to do?
Well, so this is used by us to teach cybersecurity concepts.
Okay.
Like key shifts, sending data between a couple of them. You can program it to show the accelerometer on a display and see how when you move it, it changes the values. You could output the values to its LED matrix. You can use it as a compass. You can make a pedometer. You can get a pair of headphones and alligator clips and then have it play back songs to you that you write in Python. And then just learn how to do some text-based coding.
Cool.
Or you can program also in make code,
Cool.
which is a block programming language.
That was really cool. That was really cool. So I've heard a bunch of really good ideas. Thank you. Yeah, Steve.
John Zay.
Oh, John, sorry.
Sacramento City College. So following up on last week's conversation about doing videos of different industries. I've been in contact with 2 industries, actually 2 companies in the food processing industry, and they're willing to make videos of their process. Not so much their process, but probably more along the lines of the things that their future employees in the maintenance department, what they need to know, what they're going to do. For instance, you know that we deal a lot with PLCs, talk about programming PLCs, installing them, wiring them, etc. And I just think that I know that the high schools are probably not on par as far as what they teach as we teach at Sacramento City College in MET and IMMT, but showing the students that there are other options out there other than just the options that the high schools are a lot of people are focused on right now. There's a lot of other behind the scenes jobs available, very well paying jobs. So I do believe, Jeff, I sent you the contact for 2 companies. Do you think that's, I don't know, do the high school instructors, would they be interested in exposing their students to alternative disciplines that would provide really good jobs for their students? And that's a question, by the way. So, well, I guess, I don't know.
Well, no, John, I was going to say that's a pretty open-ended question, and I think the answer for me, based on everyone I've talked to, is absolutely yes. Kids need to be exposed to those other, roles, opportunities. One of the reasons why I immediately thought of Parallax was because that company actually has so many different disciplines. They have the machining side, they have the coding side, they have a sales marketing side, and they have a local presence as well. So I just felt like that does hit a lot of those key areas.
Sure.
I do want to respect everybody's time. I know that we've already hit our hour limit. I want to basically, I've taken a bunch of notes on our next Shop Talk call. I'm going to basically come up with a plan for how we want to roll out this virtual tour.
So what about, we discussed last week, what about the tours of the college programs that we could show the high school students, instead of, like, I think we said paycheck, we can't do pathways to paychecks, but we could do something similar to that. Where are we on that?
What did you think of Randy's presentation? Was that kind of along the line, John, of what you're thinking is kind of showing what a program does at American River in their design technology?
I think so. I think it's, it would be very similar to that. I'm thinking like for my program, it would be, what the job is, basically, what it pays, what the skill sets are, what the training facility looks like, what they could expect, something along those lines. All right. And it's an alternative. I mean, not everybody's going to be a CNC operator. Not everybody's going to go and make robots. And so I think it's really important that our students are that are in high school and in college, that they know that there's a lot of options out there that nobody ever talks about, because they're the behind the scenes. All right. And most people stumble into those jobs and actually then actually go to school to make it a primary career. So I think it'd be really good.
And John, yeah, we need to just keep developing. I like your idea. Curious, Roy, are you still on the call? Roy from Sierra College.
He's here. I see him. He's muted.
Yeah, I was doing something else. Sorry, trying to move contacts into my address book, getting Ken's contact. Yeah, I'm
So,
Sierra College electronics professor. Came from industry, from NEC Electronics, and tours are something that I really love doing. I've done some tours every semester with my students so far. The food industry, I've taken them to, this last time we took them out to, oh shoot, slipped my mind right now. Kratos Defense, they build airplane targets, $1 million drones. But I like the virtual tour idea, but I like the hands-on aspect that you all are throwing around, and getting the students more engaged. Ken, those little projects to get them actually doing something and building something, because that's what I'm all about. If they're not doing something, they're not learning. I believe the struggle of learning something by doing it is where the learning happens. And so, I don't know what questions you had for me or what. I was sort of distracted there as you all were discussing what John had mentioned from Sac City. I know that the tours are going to be great, but again, a formality of what questions are going to be asked and how we do it is important.
Well, could I suggest this? This is Dykus talking again. I see 3 things on the table, and Jeff was going to kind of work on the thing with Parallax and how we're going to interact with that and make that available. And John, would you be willing to start to put together an 8-minute or less video on your program at Sac City? And Roy, would you be willing to do the same thing for your program at Sierra College?
Sure. I know we already have a video of Sierra College's program out there on YouTube. I can link that. It's about a 4-minute video, but I'd be glad to add on to that if it doesn't quite cover everything I'd like it to. But
okay, so Roy, why don't you and I talk going forward the next couple of days? Maybe we can see what we can pull together for next Tuesday. And Jeff's got his hands full. Does anybody want to help Jeff on what he's going to do at Parallax, working with Ken? And there were several different
I'd love to get Todd into the mix if Todd's open to it, because he had some great ideas.
I agree. Todd had great ideas.
And Steve, yeah, I'm more than happy to help put something together under 8 months.
Excellent. So then why don't you and I talk as the week goes on too, and then we'll put something together. So next week is going to be more of a go and see, if you will, of what's going on at Sac City, what's going on at Sierra College, and just some of the disciplines there. And also maybe we'll have something to roll out for Parallax too for next week.
Yeah, okay. I'm available for you, Jeff.
Excellent. Thank you.
We're making some
awesome.
good progress.
Steve, I just want to say that I jumped out of my virtual lab with my students today to join this meeting because I was just invited yesterday by Jeff. So I left them on a multi-sim simulator lab with biasing transistors.
You better get back to that.
I know I'm going to get back to it, but they're all really happy with their moving forward. But I did want to say that my time is better on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So for joining this meeting, it's sort of going to be hit or miss on joining this meeting.
Yeah, Tuesdays has been the day we've been holding it, Ken. It seems to have worked the best for most people. So
okay,
we've got one next Tuesday. Hopefully, I think it's the 28th, 3:30.
well, then maybe we'll have some offline conversations, and then I can share the videos, and if it's adequate, and if there's any questions, you can link up with me via email if anybody has questions.
Perfect. Hey, anybody?
I have a question for Steve or Jeff. I'm just wondering, how is information about this being shared with CT faculty? Because until about a few days ago, I didn't know that these meetings were taking place. And I think there's a lot of faculty, both in the high school and the community college system, who would love to be able to join a group like this. They just don't know about it.
Thank you, Gabriel. That's a great point. We're sort of relying on word of mouth to help for you guys to spread this amongst your peers. This has grown, I'd say, from 7 people originally, Steve, right?
Yeah, 7 or 8 back in November.
Yeah, to today we have like 25. We had 25 at one point.
Oh, 25 today. Okay.
Yeah, so it grows, and we invite. If you have somebody that you want to invite. Anyone who was on the call today is now on our invite list. So I'll continue to send these out.
I think that would be helpful. And can you clarify, is this part of SVMI or is this separate from SVMI? Because I think some of us knew about the SVMI meetings, but some faculty and managers didn't really necessarily have an interest in that aspect of it.
I think this is Dykus talking. Gabriel, I think it's more of what Jeff's doing as the regional director.
Okay.
With support from SVMI and SME.
Okay. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really connecting, as you can see, it's connecting industry with the community colleges and the high schools.
Yeah.
Well, any other parting thoughts from anybody? Anybody have a burning need right now, something that they're struggling with as they're trying to connect with their students?
Just wanted to say thank you for all your fantastic ideas. I'm working on a Canvas shell, and now I realize part of that shell is going to have to be that we'll set up some tours and some projects, as John was saying, since we can't always count on having students on our campus. But there's going to be a way where I can imagine high school students engaging the Zoom tour directly with students who are in one or another of the programs, where that student can show them their project and having questions ahead of time. I can see it as a super interactive platform. And so I'm very grateful to all of you for that, as I'm just getting my Canvas shell up and running.
We're all working together on this. It's new for most of us. So, Any other parting thoughts?
Thank you for the invite. This was great. I will send it out to a number of our deans and faculty as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Stay safe.
Take care.
All right.
Bye.
All right.
Hey, Neil.
Good meeting.